I'm still vomiting. I had to drown myself in NyQuil just to get 2 hours of sleep. This is one of the worst nights of my life, guys. This was as bad as watching Derrick Rose. I'm a diehard Bulls fan. Oh, okay, this was as bad as watching Derrick Rose tear his ACL while we were blowing out the 76ers. I felt that bad. This was embarrassing. Caitlin Clark, I can't defend it. You can't miss both of those free throws. Kelsey Mitchell missed the free throw to put us up 4 points. Caitlin Clark misses both free throws. Chelsea Gray hits 2 insane shots.
The label was slapped on her live on air, and it wasn't just a critique, it was a career-ending sentence. They called Caitlin Clark a loser-caliber player on national television, comparing her to the biggest cautionary tales in basketball history. Jason Whitlock sat there in stunned silence as the narrative shifted from her being the league's savior to a turnover machine that can't be trusted when the lights are brightest. The shield was gone, the hype was fading, and the vultures were starting to circle her insane legacy before it even truly began. This wasn't just a bad game, it was a total demolition of the Caitlin Clark mythos by those who want to see her fail.
She's done. She's cooked. And I think it was a complete meltdown by everybody involved. And I'm not blaming anyone more than I am Caitlin Clark. You can't turn the ball over 8 times. You had 8 assists in the first half. You didn't get another assist through the entire second half in overtime. I've never seen that before. I've never seen that. Turnover at the end of the game versus Asia Wilson. It's terrible. But there are questionable things on Stephanie White's side. Lexi Hall was locking Jackie Young down to start out this game. You bench Lexi Hall, Jackie Young, you put Kelsey on her, and Kelsey worked her butt off.
The atmosphere turned toxic the moment the Indiana Fever's collapse became undeniable. Jason Whitlock has seen a lot of sports drama, but watching the internal meltdown over Caitlin Clark's performance was something else entirely. It wasn't just about the points anymore. It was about whether she has the mental fortitude to survive the professional ranks. While her rivals like Angel Reese are building their own brands on grit and glass cleaning, Clark is being accused of playing a style that looks good on highlights but fails in the win column. The debate is no longer about her talent, but whether that talent is actually a curse for a team trying to win a title.
Can you trust the Indiana Fever to have what it takes to beat the upper level teams in this league? I don't. I've said it all year. This is a team that is explosive offensively, and if you are in the middle of the pack or a bottom feeder, you don't have enough to keep up. They got 3 Ferraris, and you don't have 3 Ferraris. But the top teams have enough offense and better defense, and the Indiana Fever, I just don't have the confidence in them to beat the upper echelon teams in this league at a consistent level.
Charles?
Why are you? The numbers coming out of the latest game were absolutely nauseating for anyone who bought into the Clark hype train. Imagine having 8 assists in the first half and then completely vanishing for the rest of the game in overtime. Not a single assist to be found while the turnovers started piling up like a mountain of broken promises. 8 turnovers in one game is a stat that would get any other player benched, but for Caitlin, it's becoming a recurring nightmare. This is the ammunition her critics have been waiting for, a way to prove that the insane career everyone predicted is actually just a statistical illusion built on high-volume mistakes.
Phil, when Jokic has a bad game, I don't understand why you can't relate.
I mean, not in the regular season. Let me just present this to you guys. Caitlin Clark, to me, lacks fundamentally classical leadership abilities, in my opinion. She also plays middling to non-existent defense, and 3 years in, she is a turnover machine. She could at least shore up the turnovers. If the defense is never really going to be, her calling card, and people struggle with leadership skills and building that for their entire careers, but she can at least
Jason Whitlock didn't hold back when he compared her playing style to a famous daredevil, calling her the Evel Knievel of the basketball court. He argued that she's been allowed to take unnecessary risks for so long that she doesn't know how to play winning basketball. She's trying to jump over 20 cars with every pass when a simple chest pass would do. This Evel Knievel approach is exactly what her detractors, including the camp surrounding Angel Reese, point to when they say she isn't ready for the crown. It's fun to watch someone fly through the air, but eventually you're going to crash, and the Fever are currently picking up the pieces.
A lot of turnovers. I mean, it happens across the NBA.
Maurice, think of the players you just named. Like, Luka is still too young, I think, to be overly critical of him, but like James Harden, Russell Westbrook, these are losing caliber players. Yes, they're all-time, considered to be great, or at least statistically in the regular season, great players, but they're middling to loser caliber players when it comes to the actual season that matters in the playoffs. Is that the kind of player you want Caitlin Clark to be?
No, but
no.
You just try to make an excuse for Luka. Luka's been in the league way longer than Caitlin Clark has. We're not going to sit here and watch you make an excuse for...
The emotional toll on the fans is reaching a breaking point, with some commentators claiming they felt physically ill watching the collapse. One analyst admitted he had to drown himself in sleep aids just to get 2 hours of rest after witnessing the meltdown. He compared it to the heartbreak of watching a superstar like Derrick Rose tear his ACL during a blowout game. That is the level of despair surrounding the Fever right now. It's not just a loss, it's a feeling that the future they were promised is slipping away. Every time Clark misses a crucial free throw or fumbles the ball, the narrative of her being untouchable dies a little more.
She is a great player, but because she played at Iowa and was homeschooled, she's been allowed to be Evel Knievel on the basketball court. And her teams only won if she was Evel Knievel. And now that she has other great players to play with, she needs to be less Evel Knievel and quit trying to jump over so many different cars and all this and taking all these unnecessary risks. It's fun to watch. It makes for great highlights and creates a lot of excitement. But what Stephanie White has been arguing...
While the world focuses on Clark's offensive brilliance, the critics are highlighting a much darker reality. Her defense is virtually non-existent. They are calling her a middling to non-existent defender who refuses to put in the work on the other side of the ball. In a league where players like Angel Reese thrive on physicality and defensive presence, Clark's lack of effort is becoming a glaring liability. You can't be considered an elite operational player if you're a turnstile on defense. This is the blueprint that other teams are now using to destroy her. They don't fear her logo threes anymore. They just look for whoever she's guarding and attack.
She doesn't seem to care. She's getting everybody else involved. And then all of a sudden on a dime, it just turned into like she reverted to her factory settings of let me be Evel Knievel. Let me take some threes to stop this run rather than like, man, I got a walking bucket over here with Kelsey Mitchell, and Aaliyah Boston is putting a clown suit early in this game on Asia Wilson. Let me get some buckets there. She started trying to do too much, and it just crashed and burned. And I at the end, I'm just telling. When she was sitting there dribbling this ball out, like...
The leadership question is perhaps the most damaging part of this entire controversy. Critics are now saying that Caitlin Clark lacks fundamentally classical leadership abilities. Instead of lifting her teammates up, she's seen bickering with refs or retreating into herself when things go south. This is a far cry from the generational leader she was marketed as during her college days. When you compare this to the fire and leadership seen in other top stars, the gap is massive. If she can't lead a locker room, her career won't just stall, it will implode under the weight of expectations she can no longer meet.
Asia Wilson, I was like, have you not been watching this game? I mean, Asia Wilson, Kelsey Mitchell had a good game, but Asia Wilson cut off a lot of Kelsey Mitchell's layups and those easy bucket lines. Like, Asia Wilson is a tremendous defensive player, and you're going one-on-one with her while... I don't know what you were from the field at that point, but it wasn't good, and you already had 7 turnovers at that point. There's just no self-awareness. But Charles, as a coach, you've been at it a long time. Players do have that moment where they figure out, like, all right.
The comparisons to NBA stars weren't meant to be compliments. They were used as warnings of a wasted career. Names like James Harden and Russell Westbrook were thrown around. Players who have all the stats in the world, but are often labeled as losing caliber when it matters most. The fear is that Caitlin Clark is heading down that same path of statistical greatness and postseason failure. Harden and Westbrook are cautionary tales of what happens when you prioritize your own show over the team's success. If Clark doesn't change her factory settings, she might end up as the most talented player to never actually win anything meaningful. The coaching situation with Stephanie White has added another layer of gasoline to the fire. There's a growing sense that the coaching staff is struggling to rein in Clark's wilder instincts. White is a basketball lifer who knows how the game should be played, but she's dealing with a player who has been homeschooled in a style that ignores the fundamentals. Every time White tries to pull her back, it feels like a clash of civilizations. This tension is exactly what rivals are looking for, a crack in the foundation of the fever that they can exploit to ensure Clark never reaches the summit of the WNBA. During the heat of the game, a 17-0 run by Jackie Young essentially exposed everything wrong with the current Indiana Fever roster. While Clark was busy trying to be the hero, the game was being taken away from her by a player who just played solid, fundamental basketball. Clark didn't call a timeout, didn't settle the team, and didn't make the adjustment. She just kept dribbling the air out of the ball until there was nothing left. It was a complete meltdown by everyone involved, but the buck stops with the superstar. If you want the credit for the wins, you have to take the soul-crushing weight of a 17-0 run on your shoulders. The assist-to-turnover ratio is the smoking gun that critics are using to prove Clark is hurting her team. Sitting at a 1.7-to-1 ratio is considered abysmal for a top-tier point guard. For comparison, elite guards in the league are hovering over 3-to-1. When you turn the ball over as much as you set up your teammates, you're essentially playing a zero-sum game. This is the insane part of her career that people didn't expect, the insanity of her being allowed to continue these bad habits without any accountability. It's a statistical nightmare that suggests her impact on the game might be net negative during high-pressure moments. Jason Whitlock pointed out that Clark's upbringing in the Iowa system might have actually stunted her professional growth. Because she was the center of the universe there, she was allowed to be Evel Knievel every single night. But the WNBA isn't a college conference, it's a Shark Tank. You can't just jump over cars and hope for the best against the best athletes in the world. This lack of self-awareness is what leads to her trying to take on players like Aja Wilson one-on-one when she's shooting poorly. It's a level of ego that could eventually destroy her career if she doesn't learn to trust her teammates. The shadow of Angel Reese looms large over every discussion about Clark's struggles. While Reese is often criticized for her shooting percentages, her defenders point to her winning impact and rebounding as proof that she's a more winning player. This rivalry is being used to frame Clark as a style over substance athlete. Every time Clark falters, the Reese was right narrative gains more traction. It's a battle for the soul of the league, and right now, the fundamental players are winning the argument against the flashy ones. The pressure to outperform her rival is driving Clark into making even more desperate mistakes. The moment Clark reverted to her factory settings during the fourth quarter was the exact moment the game was lost. She stopped looking for Aaliyah Boston, who was dominated early, and stopped feeding Kelsey Mitchell, who is one of the best scorers in the world. Instead, she decided it was time for the Caitlin Clark show, and the show was a disaster. This inability to stay within a system when the pressure rises is the hallmark of a player who hasn't yet learned how to win. If she doesn't fix this glitch in her programming, she will continue to be a liability in the most important minutes of the season. Coach Charles shared a story about a player named Jeremiah Massey to illustrate what Clark needs to do next. Massey was a wild, high-scoring player who eventually realized his way wasn't working. He went to his coach, apologized, and asked for help to play right down the middle. That is the pivotal moment Clark is facing right now. She has to decide if she's big enough to admit that her Evel Knievel ways are failing her. If she doesn't walk into that office and ask for help, her career will be defined by what she could have been rather than what she actually achieved on the court. The double standards in the league are also coming under fire, specifically regarding how players like Paige Bueckers are treated compared to Clark. Critics argue that when Bueckers loses or struggles, the media is silent, but when Clark fails, it's a national tragedy. This disparity is fueling the fire for those who think Clark has been given too much too soon. The resentment building up in other locker rooms is palpable, and players are relishing the opportunity to hustle the Golden Girl. This isn't just sports. It's a social war where Clark is the primary target for everyone from veterans to rookies. Whitlock's pivotal moment theory suggests that this season will either make her a far better player or she will continue to mentally fold. The shocking thing about her latest failure was how well she started. She was pouring energy into teammates and not bickering with refs for the first quarter, but as soon as the Aces made a run, she snapped back into her old bad habits. It's like she's addicted to the high-risk play, even when it's clearly killing her team's chances. This mental fragility is the secret weapon her enemies use to destroy her confidence before the opening tip. The loss to the Aces was particularly embarrassing because Indiana had already proven they could beat them twice. To collapse so spectacularly shows a lack of consistency that defines middle-of-the-pack teams. You can't trust the Fever against upper echelon teams because you can't trust their superstar to keep her head. The elite teams have better defense and enough offense to weather the Caitlyn storm. Once they realize she's going to turn the ball over 6 or 7 times, they just wait for the inevitable mistakes. It's a predictable pattern that has turned Clark into an easy target for veteran defenders. What's truly insane is that Clark is currently leading the league in turnovers for the 3rd year running if you count her college transition. At what point does a growing pain just become a permanent part of who you are as a player? 3 years is more than enough time to shore up your ball handling and decision making. The fact that it hasn't happened yet suggests a refusal to change or a lack of coaching that can actually reach her. This stagnant development is the biggest red flag for her future. If she's still a turnover machine at 25, the insane career will be a memory of what could have been. The comparison to James Harden is becoming more terrifyingly accurate by the day. Harden is a regular season MVP who often disappears or falters under the extreme pressure of the playoffs. He's a stat stuffer who doesn't necessarily make his teammates better when the game is on the line. Watching Clark dribble out the clock only to take a contested shot while her teammates stand around is a scene straight out of the Harden playbook. This is the winning style debate that is currently tearing the WNBA fanbase apart. Do you want the highlights or do you want the ring? Right now, Clark only offers the highlights. There is a sense of urgency now that wasn't there at the beginning of the season. The grace period for being a rookie is over, especially with the level of hype she brought with her. Every mistake is now being analyzed under a microscope, and the findings aren't pretty. The narrative that she's being hunted by other players is true, but she's also hunting herself with poor choices. If she can't find a way to stabilize her game, the destruction of her career won't come from a rival's foul or a mean comment. It will come from her own refusal to evolve into a professional. Jason Whitlock's final warning was clear. The league is moving past the novelty of Caitlyn Clark. The Paige Bookers and Angel Reese cohorts are coming for the crown, and they aren't going to play nice. They are watching these meltdowns and taking notes on how to break her mentally. If she continues to be Evel Knievel, she's eventually going to hit a wall she can't bounce back from. The insane career is at a crossroads, and the direction she chooses in the next few months will determine if she's a legend or just a very talented footnote in the history of the game. Ultimately, the future of Caitlyn Clark depends on her ability to look in the mirror and accept that she isn't in Iowa anymore. The professional game demands a level of discipline and defensive effort that she hasn't yet shown. If she can't cut back on the turnovers and start leading her team with maturity, the critics like Jason Whitlock will be proven right. The destruction of her career is a real possibility if the ego outweighs the output. It's time for the Evel Knievel to park the bike and start playing winning basketball before the window of greatness closes on her forever.